Welcome to the Explainer. Let's talk about why it feels so impossible to just focus anymore.
Okay, so you sit down to watch a movie, right? Sounds simple enough. But then 10 minutes in, your hand just kind of reaches for your phone on its own. Same thing with a book, right? After 2 pages, your brain is already looking for a quicker hit.
So, if this sounds familiar, you're not alone. This whole feeling, it actually has a name.
Sometimes people call it the Goldfish Effect, but that's not the whole story.
The real term is popcorn brain. It's when your brain gets used to super fast-paced stuff.
So, what's really going on here? Well, our brains and the modern world, they're not on the same page.
See, our brains are wired for deep, sustained focus. The internet is built for the exact opposite.
Yeah, everything is engineered to hit you in these super short, addictive bursts.
And this constant stream of content isn't just a habit, it has a real physical effect.
What's happening is you're physically shrinking your attention span. No, really.
It's a pretty simple process, actually. First you're exposed, then your brain adapts, and then it rejects.
So your brain gets addicted to that quick hit, and it starts treating deep focus as pure boredom.
This makes it harder to do anything that requires real mental effort, like deep work or complex thought.
And listen, this is way more than just feeling a little distracted now and then. The real price we're paying, we're losing the physiological ability to think deeply.
So if our brains are being rewired like this, it begs the question, who's the architect?
Let's talk about a habit you probably have but don't really get why.
Ever find yourself checking your phone for no reason? Like it didn't even buzz.
Or how about this? You post something, and then you just have to refresh right away.
Well, there's a name for this. You're actually trapped in a powerful psychological feedback loop.
And to get it, we gotta go back to the 1930s and a bunch of lab rats.
So Skinner found the best way to get a rat hooked wasn't giving it a treat every single time.
It's that unpredictable reward. That's the key. That's what gets you compulsively checking.
So what does this have to do with you?
Well, the parallel is kind of scary.
See, that like isn't just a like. It's a little hit of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical.
You're the rat pressing the lever, and that like, it's your little pellet of digital approval.
And over time, this loop literally rewires your brain. It actually changes what you value.
The real experience can start to feel less important than the online proof of it.
What you're doing is outsourcing your self-esteem to an algorithm designed to keep you hooked. So you have to ask yourself, who built this digital box, and why do they want you in it?
Okay, let's get into what's being called the architecture of algorithmic anger. Have you ever been scrolling and just thought, man, the world feels so much angrier these days?
Well, here's the thing. That feeling you're getting, it's not an accident. It is absolutely by design.
It's called the Outrage Engine, and its whole purpose is to keep you glued to the screen.
See, platforms figured out that anger is way more valuable to them than happiness.
And this is exactly why. Anger drives way more engagement. You stop, you comment, you share.
So how does this engine actually get us hooked? Let's break it down. It's a simple feedback loop. It triggers you, you react, the machine learns, and then it repeats.
And it's not random. It spoon feeds you the stuff that hits your fight or flight response.
And here's the really scary part. Your brain is actually being rewired to constantly scan for threats. You're basically getting addicted to the chemical rush you get from feeling righteous indignation.
So you're not getting more informed here. You're actually being radicalized by a machine.
And this entire kind of complex system, well, it all boils down to one incredibly simple principle.
The algorithm knows for a fact that you are much more likely to click on something you hate.
So let me leave you with this. If you click more when you hate, what's it going to show you next?
Okay, let's talk about the two yous, the you online versus the you in real life.
So let's just start with this. Are you really the same person online as you are in real life?
You've got the curated version, and then there's, the human one. Psychologists have a term for this.
It's called Self-Discrepancy Theory, and really it just splits our self-concept into 2 main parts.
So you've got your actual self on one side and your ideal self on the other. The actual self is, well, the real you. Messy, flawed, the actual human being. Then there's the ideal self. That's your curated, filtered, super successful online avatar.
So where does the problem come in? I mean, having 2 selves isn't necessarily a bad thing.
The trouble starts when you actually begin to prefer that avatar over the real, human you.
And we pour so much energy into crafting this digital version of ourselves, right? Hours on photos, captions.
You end up pouring all your energy into the performance of your life, not the living of it.
And all this performing for an audience, it creates what's called a psychological fracture.
It's pretty simple, really. The wider that gap gets between your reality and your avatar, the more anxious you feel.
Think of it like this: a small gap, not much anxiety. A really big gap, way more anxiety.
And that anxiety can make you feel like a total fraud, even in your own skin.
This leads to a deep-seated fear of being truly seen for who you actually are. Because you start to convince yourself that only the avatar, that's the part of you worthy of love.
And what happens is you basically take on a new, super demanding full-time job.
You become the PR manager for a celebrity who literally doesn't even exist.
So you gotta ask yourself, who are you spending more time with? The human or the avatar?
Let's talk about ghosting. You know, that thing that's become way too common?
You know, in the real world, ignoring someone is a big deal. But online, it's just a feature.
And that right there, that's the start of what we're calling a ghosting culture.
So the big question is, why? How did this become so normal? Well, for one, our apps turn real, complex people into simple, swipeable icons. The key ingredient here is the total lack of what's called social cost.
Online, you just don't see the fallout. You're completely shielded from their reaction.
And when you do this over and over, it actually starts to train your brain. It trains us to see people less as humans and more as products to be tossed out.
It leads to this really powerful metaphor for how we date now.
A relationship gets tough, instead of trying to fix it, we just uninstall it.
So what's the real damage here? Well, it goes way deeper than just hurting someone else.
Here's the thing, we're losing the muscle for dealing with human conflict.
Hiding behind a screen, avoiding the tough talks, we're essentially training ourselves to be cowards.
Which leaves us with this final kind of scary thought. What happens when we forget how to repair?
Okay, let's dive into a feeling I bet a lot of us know all too well.
Yeah, if that hits home, you're definitely not alone. And psychology actually has a name for it.
It's called relative deprivation, and right now, we're gonna break it all down for you. Basically, it's that sinking feeling of not being enough, and it all comes down to comparison.
But here's the kicker. The whole idea of others we compare ourselves to has completely changed.
It used to be just your neighbors or coworkers. Now, your comparison group is global.
Right, because when you open your phone, what you're seeing isn't real life, it's a highlight reel.
You're seeing the absolute richest, the fittest, the most successful people in their very best moments. So, what does all this do to your brain? Well, it kind of short-circuits it.
See, your brain doesn't get that it's just a highlight reel. It sees perfection and assumes it's reality.
So you're comparing their perfect highlight reel to your own behind-the-scenes struggles. It's an unfair fight.
And the result of that unfair fight? This constant nagging feeling that you just don't measure up.
This quote just says it all. You stop being the main character and become a spectator instead.
Okay, let me put it another way. Think of it like you're looking through a window at a party.
From the outside, it looks like the most amazing party ever, and you feel left out.
But here's the secret. The reality behind that window, it's not what you think at all.
That's right. The whole thing is an illusion, just like that social media feed you were scrolling.
And that's the whole trip. You're comparing your real, messy life to someone else's complete fantasy. So it leaves you with a really important question to ask yourself. Are you living or just watching?